Welcome back to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. We have a very special guest right now, Nancy.
Yes, we do. My friend and a woman that I have admired, and I know you have admired for her work in the world of autism, Elaine Hall. And she is known as Coach E to the children. She was called by the New York Times the Child Whisperer, which I love. And Elaine was a well-known Hollywood acting coach whose life changed dramatically when her young adopted son, Neil, was diagnosed with autism. And we would like you, before we get into the Miracle Project and Autism the Musical, which everyone knows you from, we'd like to kind of go back and start at the beginning where you adopted Neil from a Russian orphanage, correct?
Yes.
And then how that, his diagnosis of autism led you to sort of a whole new calling in life.
Wonderful. Well, I'm so excited to be here with you and with Shannon and the good works that you're doing.
Well, thank you.
Autism a household word.
Well,
and
well, you're one of the pioneers that you've been out there working with the children and showing the world that our kids have gifts. You're showing ability rather than disability, and for that, you know, we can't say enough, because you've really been a leader in showing the world the talents of our children instead of what they can't do, what they can do.
Absolutely. And it did all start when I adopted my son, Neil, from a Russian orphanage. And this was now 16 years ago.
Okay.
He's 18 years old. I can't believe it.
It goes by fast,
It goes by so fast. And this was before shows like yours and before all the different programs that we all know about for autism. So I didn't know from autism. All I know is that my son spun around in circles and stared at his hand for hours at a time, banged his head.
Now, you adopted him at birth or after?
He was 23 months old.
Okay.
And in the beginning, and I write about this in my book, Now I See the Moon.
Now I See the Moon.
Now I See the Moon.
Okay.
That I really didn't know from autism, and I just kind of made excuses for what was going on.
Right.
Traditional,
like we all do.
Like we all do.
Yeah, hello.
That's right. But, you know, denial is not just a river.
Yes.
Exactly.
So finally, when he was 2 years, 10 months, he was diagnosed with autism. And we were thrust, as we all are, into that world, the internet, everything. Traditional therapies were not working for Neil. He did not respond to the traditional types of behavior interventions. I was fortunate to learn about Dr. Stanley Greenspan in Bethesda, Maryland.
Right.
He was doing a whole...
Floor time was what he was very well known for.
Exactly, exactly. And relationship-based, relationship-based intervention. And he became my mentor.
Okay.
And helped me see, again, what Neil was doing rather than what he wasn't doing.
Okay.
And I started on a path of joining his world, following his lead, following his need, to see what interests him, and then to make that connection. And what do we want as parents more than anything but is connection with our children.
Right, and it's the one thing that baffles so many parents of children with autism, because they feel like they can't make that connection.
Yes.
So you started joining Neil's world and trying to get in there and figure out what really he liked and what his interests were, and following those. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
That's exactly right. Instead of looking at his behaviors as something bizarre or weird, I was able to identify them as very purposeful.
Okay.
There was something that Neil was getting. So, like, if you go like this, which a lot of our kids do, like you guys do it with me, it's kind of fun, right?
Yeah, it feels good.
So we did. It does. Now imagine if someone's telling you all the time that you can't do that. So what we did is, what is Neil getting from that? Well, there's a flickering of a light, right?
Yeah.
There's a flicker of a light, and there's also excitement going.
It feels good.
It feels good. So we would mirror that with either doing it with him, making it birds and flying with him, or echoing, you're excited, you're excited.
Right.
So that there was that connection. And just trying to see the world from his perspective.
Okay.
So there was a time where we couldn't even walk down the street without Neil stopping at every single car wheel, every hubcap.
Because of his obsession with them.
Yes. So we take obsessions and we call it preferred interests.
Okay.
I would be like yanking him like we all do. Come on, I'm in a hurry, let's go, let's go. And finally, one day I stopped and I got on my knees and I looked at the hubcap and I saw this beautiful reflection of light in the hubcap, like a kaleidoscope. And I went, wow, Neil, you're showing me something magnificent. I see that reflection. And he just went, From then on, we never had to stop again at the hubcaps.
Really?
I was able to walk. Yeah. So it's really looking at the world from
their perspective.
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of traditional therapists thought I was a Looney Tune.
Right.
So because of my background in theater and film and music and dance, I rallied all of my theater people to come into a playroom that I created to follow Neil's lead, follow his interests, and we created a bridge for Neil to enter our world.
Okay. And did that lead him into performing? Did that lead him into the arts? Did that lead him, what interest did that lead him into?
Well, that's such a great question, because we utilized the arts to join Neil's world to find out his strengths, what was uniquely Neil. And Neil is an athlete. And he's fascinated with insects and bees. So we learned from watching Neil what interests him. And now he's 18 years old, and he's going to have a job at Camp JCA Shalom as a working in the garden, the organic garden.
How great.
That's great.
So he did not become a performer. We utilized the arts to be able to access his ability and who he is.
Yeah, okay,
Wonderful.
I'm getting it. Not, you know, you're not just saying, okay, just because you're doing performing and you're doing the arts, what, when you're doing those things, are you particularly interested in? Okay,
Absolutely.
that's great.
Absolutely.
So this led you, so you started working with your kind of people, and then that led you to developing a program?
Yes.
Okay.
So I was working with my friends and associates 10 hours a day, 7 days a week with Neil.
Okay.
Until he started making eye contact and emerging
Now,
into
how
our
were you
world.
able to do this and live? I mean,
I prayed a lot.
were you married at the time?
I was became a single mom in the process.
Okay.
And
As so many people do, women do, and men do during
men
this
do.
struggle.
It's a challenge. I always say that a child with a disability puts Miracle Grow on a marriage and the challenges of a marriage. So what was existing there just became stronger.
Yeah.
And I was able at the time to be able to devote my time to Neil.
Okay.
And then, of course, becoming a single mom, it was time to get back to work. I had to do something.
Yeah.
So I literally got on my knees and prayed. I didn't know what I was supposed to do, and I got a message really loud and clear to teach children with special needs this type of approach. And a friend of mine, Michelle Wolf, said there's a grant from the Jewish Community Foundation, and you've got to apply for it. So I did.
And you got it.
Beginner's luck. I got it.
Isn't that amazing?
You know what, it's really that you opened yourself up to the universe. You open you opened yourself, as you said to me, to the God of my understanding, which, you know, Shannon and I have oftentimes on this show shared our journeys, and we all three, and so many women in this field, do have a similar arc to their story, in that they didn't know what they were going to do.
Yes.
They knew their lives were changed forever because now they had a child with autism, but they were working in a field, or they were not working, or whatever, and they got down on their knees. We call it the kitchen floor club.
Yes.
You're down on the kitchen floor because you're like, you know, please help me. God, help me. What am I going to do? And if you listen, you generally get the answer if you're open. And it's happened to all three of us, right?
And things transform. I mean, you know, I never pictured myself sitting here, and I don't think you pictured yourself sitting here.
Never in a million
probably
years.
You didn't picture, you know, things happen.
Never.
Right.
Things
So we
happen.
want to get that message out to our viewers, that here are three women that if you had told them 20 years ago what we'd be doing now, we would have said you're crazy, right?
Yes.
That's right.
So, all right, let's go back.
Well, I want to stop for just a
we're gonna
second.
take a break?
I want you to give me your
the
book, Now
book.
I See the Moon.
Oh,
Yeah.
sure.
We're going to take a break, but I just wanted to show this book, Now I See the Moon, Elaine's book detailing her journey with her son. Fascinating book. We'll talk more about this when we come back, and how that asking those questions and the answer coming up became the Miracle Project. So stick with us.
My favorite thing about the Miracle Project is watching these kids grow.
I liked the play very much that they made, so I got the idea of actually joining the Miracle Project, and everything that I wanted to do in the Miracle Project, it comes true.
I have a sister with cerebral palsy, and I wanted to mix my love of helping children with special needs and my love of acting, and it was the perfect thing.
This is the culmination of a 22-week program with children who have autism, and they're typically developing peers and siblings. He comes back and run down, Ryan, and say, "It's you."
It's you. You're the voice.
I am.
Where did you get that seashell?
Where did I get that seashell? From the beach.
I did.
Autism is often defined as a challenge with socialization, with following adult-directed activity, and we've got kids doing improv, and be imaginative, be spontaneous. They're doing things that are really considered not doable for children who have autism. If you guys can remember Riley,
I know.
22 weeks ago.
He was stuck against the window with me going like, no.
Yeah.
The ultimate curmudgeon.
The fact that he's actually on stage, to me, it's like precious. Now, Riley, you're over here. Now, Ali.
When it comes to the typical kids and sort of how they integrate into the program, every kid has an issue. Every kid is either too loud in a moment, or doesn't want to connect, or doesn't want to be open, or had a bad day, because every kid has special needs.
Sensitive. You're too sensitive. They call me sensitive.
Do you have any special needs?
Sensitive. Sensitive.
Not as many as regular other kids, but I'm like the last little bit. If I could just get my writing together and my math together, I'm off the spectrum. I can beat the spectrum. And I can be who I am, and I can just look out and say, "You want to bully me? I don't have any special needs, so don't try me." That's one day I wish to say. That day hasn't come.
Open your eyes, unplug your ears, take a deep breath and smile.
There are thousands of children who have special needs, and they're entitled to the same things that are essential to every child: friendship, community, and joy, self-expression. And the Miracle Project is a place where they can experience all of those things and more.
One planet, one people, one song. One planet, one people, one song. Families gotta get it together. Dreams to each other's side. Don't interrupt my mother or your child.
Hi, we're back with Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy, and we have been speaking with Elaine Hall. Many of you already know her. She's an educator, writer, children's acting coach, and her groundbreaking organization, The Miracle Project, was profiled in the Emmy Award-winning HBO documentary, Autism the Musical, which so many people know about. I mean, you've been honored by so many people, Elaine. Autism Speaks, Hollywood Foundation, Carnegie Hall. You've spoken at the United Nations for International Autism Awareness Day. You just shared with us your journey with your son, Neil, who was adopted from a Russian orphanage, then diagnosed with autism, changed your life forever. That journey is documented in this wonderful book, Now I See the Moon, A Mother, a Son, and the Miracle of Autism, which everyone can get on Amazon.com. And
it's a wonderful book.
Yeah.
And when we went to break, we were saying we want to hear about how the Miracle Project came to be. You were sharing that you had that sort of kitchen floor moment that we were all talking about, where you were taken to your knees and said, what am I going to do? And you got this answer. How did that become the Miracle Project?
So Shannon, I had no idea what I was going to do. I was in the film business. I didn't want to work again from 5 in the morning till whatever.
The 70-hour work weeks weren't going to cut it, right?
Exactly. So I prayed for guidance of what I was supposed to do next, and the answer came really loud: teach children with special needs acting, singing, and dancing. My friend Michelle Wolf told me about a grant from the Jewish Community Foundation. I applied for it, beginner's luck. I got it, and then it was like, oh no, now what am I going to do? Be careful what you pray for, right?
Exactly.
So I get it. So again, I rallied my friends from the film business, and I trained them in what's now known as the 7 Keys to Unlock Autism.
Which you also have a book about, correct?
I also have a book. I've had a busy couple of years.
You have. I asked her when she sleeps. She does, she'll wake up in the middle of the night. You said menopause was good for you because...
This is my menopause book.
Yeah, that was your menopause
2
book.
to 5 in the morning.
And then the 7 Keys to Unlock Autism, Making Miracles in the Classroom. This is directly aimed at educators as well, right? To help them. And I'm going to get this for my child's teacher, and his aides, so they, to help them understand. I think it's a wonderful resource. And is this available on Amazon.com as well?
Yes, it is.
Okay. The 7 Keys to Unlock Autism. I think this is great that every family should have this and give it to your child's teacher.
Yes.
So, okay, back to the Miracle Project.
You use these techniques to train the staff.
Exactly. So the techniques came out of my understanding autism, and I wanted to understand the sensory profile, because most people with autism have a very delicate sensory system.
Yes.
And so I wanted to convey that to others so they could understand why our kids do certain behaviors, that there's meaning behind it. So I came up with the 7 key approach, which is really first understanding ourselves, so that we cannot be effective educators unless we have a sense of who we are, what makes us up. And so the 7 keys are setting your own intention, coming from a place of love and acceptance, understanding sensory profile, joining a child's world, inclusion in the broadest sense of inclusion. What does that mean? Practicing step-by-step intervals so that everything can be mastered, and then celebrating. So I trained a staff of singers, dancers, actors, volunteers, special educators to join Children's World, just as I had done with Neil.
Okay.
The very first day we had 20 kids. We had 25 staff and volunteers. It was so chaotic. We had kids running here and there, and every volunteer would join one of the kids' worlds and follow them wherever they needed. If someone needed to run around the circle, someone would run around the circle with them. If a child needed to go underneath a blanket, we'd be under the blanket with them. And it looked really crazy, but there was this whole sense of purpose and understanding, and more than anything, of love.
They weren't ostracized. They weren't told no. They were comforted and brought in. It's always important, I think, to make them feel comfortable and loved and accepted, as you said. Only from that place, we can't go from a negative to a positive, right?
Exactly.
So you started with the positive, then you started learning really what they loved, right?
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Exactly. We saw, when a child walked in, we didn't look at what was wrong with them. We celebrated what was beautiful and right.
So you're using a lot of positive reinforcement, which we all know in all behavior therapy is the key.
Yes.
Well, we hear so much about extinguishing of behaviors and all of that, but we often forget, and you remind me of this quite a bit, Shannon, is don't forget the praise. The praise. They love it.
Yes, well, we all do. And I think Nancy, that's the thing about the Miracle Project, is that we're really all one. There isn't the kid with autism and the kid without autism. We have siblings and peers and staff, and we're all one. It's like kids and friends, and now I have so many adult friends now with autism. There's no difference except the way that the world is perceived, perceived differently. And that's a very sensitive sensory system. So when our staff and volunteers had a sense of our own sensitivities, our own quirks, we were able to meet every child exactly where they were
Yeah,
and grow from that.
What I'm hearing is accepting the individual and rejoicing in the individual, which needs to happen. I don't know if you guys saw the story in the news yesterday, but there's a family with their child who is deaf that he just started kindergarten, and he signs his name in a way that the school wishes he would change his name, because there's a gesture that looks like a gun in his signing his name, and they've sent the family back and said, teach him a different way to say his name. And of course there's outrage in the community about, could you just take this child where they are? In all seriousness, could you just accept this child?
I mean, in kindergarten, I doubt the other children would be going, he's making a gun. They're not going to think that.
It's preposterous. And the family, you know, has said, we really were just astonished by the request and have asked them very politely to please reconsider. And I hope that the school does.
I'm sure they will. I'm sure there'll be a public outcry.
There is. But how important it is to accept the children as they walk in, where they are, for who they are.
Absolutely.
And build on their strengths.
Exactly from what you said with the praise. Exactly.
So you have these 20 kids, you start working with them, you're seeing phenomenal results. How did Autism the Musical come about? Did they find out about the program and someone said, hey, we've got to do a documentary on this?
Nancy, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. So what happened, I remember I wasn't a special educator.
One of those other crazy accidents. You got the grant, now that you got the music, you got this documentary.
Stuff is showing up.
It was bizarre. Here we are, we had these 20 kids all over the place, right? After 11 weeks, we were no longer talking about behavior interventions and how to keep things, you know, quiet and what to sign when things are getting too loud and how to keep a child in the room. We were talking about what show should we do and what music should we write and what are the costumes going to be. They all came together as this ensemble, and we performed a live musical at the Odyssey Theater. And Nancy and I have talked about this before. I chose the nicest theater in Los Angeles so that so many times those with disabilities are marginalized and given the crumbs. I wanted them to have the best. So we had this beautiful state-of-the-art theater. I had a really good friend of mine who was a filmmaker, helped to put things together, and I had no idea I was doing anything out of the ordinary, because I was an acting coach. I had no idea that, and I had a theater program called Kids on Stage, and so we were just doing what we do at Kids on Stage and acting, putting on a show. I had no idea that was anything extraordinary. But a group of filmmakers from InEffects Films and Janet Grillo and Kristen Stills were producing this documentary on autism, and they asked if they could follow my program for another year. And that ended up, this time no grant. I had no grant, because I was like, oh my gosh, okay, we'll do it. And families supported us. We had all kinds of donations from the community to support another season. We started another Miracle Project in the following year. It was 2005, in October of 2005. Trained a whole new cadre of staff and volunteers and all new kids, and thought, well, it worked one year, maybe it'll work again. So that was the year that Autism the Musical
was
bloomed.
made. The cameras followed, and then it was sold to HBO after it was made. That's a pretty big sale. I mean, you don't get much better than HBO.
It was amazing. Again, Boona Murray, the production company, well, you know, they bought all the footage, edited it, made phenomenal. Trisha Regan directed the film. She's a brilliant director. She's just really was able to bring out the best in everybody. Boona Murray bought all the footage, the raw footage, put it together quickly. It premiered in April of 2007 at Tribeca Film Festival. HBO bought it that day.
Isn't that amazing?
And it did phenomenally well, and won an Emmy, right?
It did. Here I actually have a copy of Autism the Musical.
Right.
Autism the Musical, it did. And
look at all these things. It's one. Amazing. Yeah. Tribeca, Palm Springs, Newport Film Festival, Mill Valley. I mean, it has just been. It's won so many awards, and is such a great profile of the journey that some of our children are capable of making, and it's inspirational. So I think parents should get this as well. Add that to the list.
And you can get that at Amazon.com.
You can get that at Amazon.com, and also what we found is a lot of. I travel now all over the world. I just got back from Jerusalem. It's presenting at a conference, and part of the Jewish Federation Special Needs Mission in Israel, and people show this film now all over the world.
Right.
And also it's being used in universities as a means to help young educators learn how to be with our kids.
Absolutely amazing. We're going to take another break, but when we come back, we want to talk to you about that conference.
The Vista Del Mar conference.
The conference that you just came back from, and the Vista Del Mar one.
The one coming up, because you've got so many exciting things planned for that. And we want our viewers to know that they can attend, because there's going to, you're going to tell us about all the great people that are going to be there. Okay? All right,
so stick with us. We'll be back more with Elaine Hall from the Miracle Project after these messages. Welcome back to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. Our special guest today, we're so thrilled to have her, Elaine Hall from the Miracle Project. We've been talking with you about a lot of different things. You're a woman who is very prolific. You've gotten a lot done in the last couple of years. Let's show the books again. We might as well. And show,
Now I See the Moon, which is Elaine's story of her journey of being the mother of a child with autism, and how that really led to her calling as a coach for children with autism, to bring out the best in them. And then she's got the 7 keys to unlock autism, which is her method, as it were, to find out how to bring out our children's abilities rather than focus on their disabilities. And a wonderful resource for your child's teachers and therapists that might be working with them. And then Autism the Musical, which Elaine was profiled in, the award-winning HBO documentary. And that's just a beautiful thing to see, and incredibly inspirational. So those are, you have been prolific. And Shannon, we were talking in the break about how we wanted to know how others can access your talent and your programs.
Thank you. Yes. Well, I've been blessed to be working at Vista Del Mar in Los Angeles.
In Los Angeles, Vista Del Mar Family Services, and they service the community.
They service the community, and they have a school for kids with autism, and then we have an after-school enrichment program. So in the after-school program, the classes are all based on the Miracle Project. So we have classes in music and dance and drama, and you can call Naomi. Shall I give the phone number?
Yes, you can.
It's 310-836-1223, extension 322.
You want to give it one more time?
Sure. 310-836-1223, extension 322, and that's vistadelmar.org.
Vistadelmar.org. They can go to the website and also find out how to access this amazing program, which will focus on your child's strengths, not their weaknesses, and bring out their abilities and unlock maybe talents and abilities that you never knew existed.
That's so true. And we have a teen program and young adult program.
Is that help with social skills and socialization?
Social skills, socialization, building endurance for jobs and work skills, and finding what talents people have so that they can bring that into the work world.
Now, is this funded by regional center, or how does that work? Do you know?
Well, there's different funding sources, so you can call Naomi and work on that for different things. But
just because I'm sure that parents would want to know.
Yes, we're working towards that. And so maybe you guys can help me out with that piece.
We'll be able to push. Maybe we'll watch this.
And so we do have classes classes throughout Los Angeles,
Okay.
and but if you call that number, Naomi can tell you where the closest location is to you.
All right, great, because there's going to be, I think, a lot of interest. This is, I know I'm interested. My son took one acting workshop, and I told Shannon, I was just blown away at his improv. They did a little Shakespeare, a spoof on Shakespeare. I was like, that's my kid? I mean, I never thought he could do this. And, you know, we underestimate. And I think one of the greatest lessons I've learned with working with children with autism and families with children with autism is never underestimate. Always assume intelligence and assume creativity. They may not show it the same way typical kids do, but they have it in there.
Absolutely.
So that's great.
We debunk so many myths.
Yeah, we do.
It's really true.
So
we
let's
have
get into
classes,
this. Yeah.
and then we also have bar and bat mitzvah and religious education classes for all kids, but helping to build that sense of spirituality and connection. And I find that those with autism, people think that they don't have emotion, and it's the opposite. I find the most sensitive, emotional, and it's just a way of accessing it. And so our bar bat mitzvah programs and our spirituality and religious education programs really help to bring that out as well.
That's so needed. I don't think that's a very pioneering program, because so that was that's the Jewish Community Foundation is doing that with Vista Del Mar.
Yes, they helped us with a grant a couple years ago, and so we're growing with them and expanding into other synagogues.
And fostering inclusion in synagogues, which is great.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk a bit, and we might have to spend another segment on this as well, about this conference.
Yes.
So, the Vista Del Mar 4th annual autism conference that's bringing together parents, professional experts, focusing on optimizing the lives of families living with autism.
Yes.
Tell us who's going to be there and what the program is going to include.
Shannon and Nancy, this is the most exciting conference because we are rethinking autism. We exactly like what we were talking about and what you do. We're looking at perspective of what are the abilities within each child and how can we access that. So the conference on November 1st will be doing with technology, science, policy, and also with a panel of young adults and teens talking about therapies that worked for them and what didn't work for them. So from their own voices.
I think that's so important, because so many times we hear from the experts, the parents, and people working in the field. We don't hear from children and young adults that have autism themselves. Like, what do they feel?
Absolutely.
That's right.
I didn't mean to be split focused, but we had a couple of questions that came in, live questions for you.
Oh, fantastic.
Somebody had written in and said, and I just want to bring it up onto the big screen for them to be able to see at home. You guys won't be able to see it, but they'll be able to see it on their screen. It says, I love your work. Are you doing a new play this year?
Yes, we are doing a new play. Every year we create an original musical where the kids and teens write their own songs. We have nonverbal autistics that often write the lyrics, and we have a songwriting class, so it's always an original music. And you can, again, find out about us through 310-836-1223, extension 322. And we're also starting programs in San Diego and San Jose. So.
Oh, that's so great.
Yeah.
Well,
And another comment that somebody made in telling your story, they said, an awesome story and thank you for telling. So love your comments. And if you have more questions for Elaine or comments that you have for her, please continue to write it on the
continue to
front.
do that. So let's get back. Do we need to take a break, or
Why don't we take a break and
then
find
we'll
out more about
focus
the Vista Del
on
Mar
the conference? Yeah.
So stick with us, more with Elaine Hall, and you can continue to write in your questions. Now we'll be back after these messages. Welcome back to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. Nancy, introduce our special guest again.
Yes, Elaine Hall, Coach E, the Child Whisperer, the Miracle Project, Autism the Musical. Many of you know her from her amazing work with our children. Now, we wanted to focus on the conference coming up, the Vista Del Mar conference, and tell us some of the guest speakers who they can see.
So on November 1st, and we will be having a conference that is state-of-the-art, and we'll be seeing Dr. Pat Levitt, who will be talking about neurobiology and the neuroscience of autism and what's going on in the brain, which will be phenomenal. Peter Bell from Autism Speaks, who is also the presidential appointee on disabilities, is going to be telling us what is happening with policy. We all need to know what's going on, and Peter Bell, we're so fortunate to have him coming out here.
Yeah, I'm really interested in hearing what he has to say about what's going on in Washington. And
exactly. And then Diana O'Brien has started a whole technology site for teens, young adults, and children with autism, and the impact that technology is going to have. And this will all be at Vista Del Mar on November 1st, 2012. CEUs are available. This is our 4th year of our conference. The remarks we get from people, they say that they've been to conferences throughout their careers. We have therapists and educators, parents, professionals all come and say that this is one of the most meaningful conferences because it's really about everyone working and listening together.
And rethinking autism.
And how can someone attend this conference if they're interested?
So again, you'll go to the Vista Del Mar website /conference, or Naomi's a very busy lady. You can call Naomi Solomon at 310-836-1223, extension 322 to find out. And the regional center is vendoring this conference. So parents, go to your regional center caseworker and ask, and there's vendorization, so you will be able to, they'll support you going to this conference. And it's really a highlight of the Vista Del Mar year, and we bring in so many people. And again, it's so much of what the work that you're doing, which is looking at autism from a whole different perspective.
Okay, and if somebody is not going to go through the regional center, I imagine there's a cost to get into the conference. These things aren't inexpensive to do.
Yes.
Do we know what the cost is to tell people? They can find it on the website.
They can find the cost on the website.
And students and seniors are discounted.
Yeah, discount for students and seniors.
It's only $50.
Available. Yeah.
For students and seniors.
We were talking
and we
about
won't turn
CEUs
people
earlier.
away.
Yeah.
So.
There we go. Okay, wonderful. Such an amazing array of things that you have been able to do in your life. And as we just had the question, somebody asking if you're doing another show this year, and you do a show every single year.
Every year.
Is there a possibility that maybe there'll be another documentary following you around? We don't know.
People have been talking about it, sort of a 7-Up series of where are the kids now. I mean, Neil is now 18 and is extraordinary.
Your son.
My son.
Yeah.
And all the kids are doing just wonderful, wonderful things.
That's great.
Have they stayed, speaking of 7-Up, have they stayed with you? Have they done other projects? Have they come back to do? They have.
Yes, and a number of the kids have done other projects. We've also performed together.
You performed at the Card Gala.
We performed at the Card Gala.
Yeah, do you remember the rap?
I was doing interviews downstairs.
Rhea Wiles, amazing
Rhea rapped, and
Wyatt Isaacs performed with us.
Performed,
and his mom,
Henry.
Diane Isaacs, and Henry.
Yeah.
We did a big program at the Grove last year.
Yeah,
so.
you guys have done some just wonderful stuff.
Very, very involved.
I don't know that we're going to have time to talk about the golf tournament that we had on Monday.
I think we're pretty much close to being out of time. We've got about 3 more minutes.
Oh, we have 3 more minutes?
Well, actually, we've got 6 minutes.
Oh, okay. Well, then we can come back. We can.
So we'll take a break. We'll say goodbye to Elaine.
You've spent almost the whole hour with us, and we've been so fortunate to have you. You've been just a wonderful guest, and good luck with the conference, and just good luck with everything, and thank you for the work you're doing with our special children.
Absolutely. All right.
Thank you.